systems. This is our 14th meeting about SOA and microservices, and this is the last video, our 7th video of infrastructure about infrastructure automation. So this is the last video of the last meeting. So we are still discussing about characteristics of microservices. There are 9 of them, and we have discussed 6 of them here, and now we are going to discuss these 3 ones at the bottom here, and we are going to start with infrastructure automation. Characteristic 7, infrastructure automation. So if you still remember that SOA suffered from the lack of tooling, and this is solved in microservices, and tooling is great for automated testing and automated deployment. And if you are curious about the steps of deployment, these are the steps. So first you run a unit and functional test, and so you have a service that runs successfully on a build machine, and then you run the acceptance test, and then it is deployed on the build machine, and then you run the integration test. So your system is now integrated to the other environment, and then you run the user acceptance test. So after that, the system is successfully run in the UAT environment, and last you run the performance test and performance test. By that, you have a system that is successfully run in the performance environment, and then you deploy to production. And there are many tools for infrastructure automation. Here you have Azure DevOps, you have GitLab, you have Jenkins, you have Ansible, and you have Chef. And the purpose of this is to have a short deployment cycle. And once again, the motivation of infrastructure automation is short deployment cycle. And the next the next characteristic is design for failure. So in the microservice, in any service, we need to know, we need to have faith that failure is always possible. So the right mindset is not to think that how to avoid failure, but how to deal with failure when failure happens. So for example, here we have a system that is microservice oriented. Here the important thing that you need to prepare if there is failure is that you can catch the exception of the failure, and you retry if there is a failure, and if the failure still happens, you have the capability to lock the failure for further development. And the important thing is you create a system where there is a monitor that can monitor the failure that happens in the system. And the motivation of design for failure is to increase the system's reliability. And the last characteristic is about evolutionary design. And the important thing of evolution design is the move to microservice should not be revolutionary. It needs to be gradual, so it needs to happen slowly. No need to break everything apart. Start by small things that can be done, and then you improve the steps in the future. So this is the summary of the characteristics that we have discussed. First, that these are guidelines and these are not mandatory to do, and adapt what works for you. So don't use all of them, just use the part that you directly, and the microservices world is rapidly changing for new APIs and etc. And these are the most important characters that we have discussed. The first one is important, componentization, and the second one is also important, organized around business capabilities, and the fifth one, decentralized governance, and the sixth one, decentralized data management, but there's a note, only when possible, and the seventh one, infrastructure automation. And so that is the end of the seventh video, and this is also the end of our meeting in parallel and distributed systems. Thank you for your attention. We have successfully discussed parallel and distributed systems. I'll meet you in the next course, hopefully. Thank you for your attention and good luck, and I hope that the knowledge is useful